He's there.
Oh, see,
Is that loud enough? Good afternoon. Welcome to the regular board meeting of the Novi School District Board of Education, September 19th. Call this meeting to order, and if you'd stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I'll support.
Moved by Mrs. Beaudoin, supported by Mr. Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 5-0. On to celebrations, Mr. Micah.
Yeah, we have a special opportunity today to recognize one of our esports teams, particularly the Valorant team. This team has not only won many championships, but on May 30th, the team won against the #1 ranked Clayton Valley Charter High School. And with that win, our team can proudly say they're the only undefeated high school esports Valorant team in the United States. And so we have members of the team here, and they're very successful and award-winning coach, Mr. Chris White, is here to introduce the team. So we'll let Mr. White come up with his team. You can go ahead.
Oh.
Yeah, you can go ahead and introduce.
Yeah. Should we stand? No, wait.
There you go.
Yep, go right to the
We'll get a picture
podium.
at the end.
Be at the podium, we'll get a picture
Oh
afterwards.
my
Yeah.
gosh, right here. So, we have Sartak Tayal and Shashank Chidella. They're both sophomores, they're both on our varsity team. They were both on our varsity team last year alongside a bunch of seniors who graduated who couldn't be here, unfortunately, because they're in college. But, these guys played so well all throughout the season. We were state champions only because we didn't drop a single game during the entirety of the regular season or the playoffs. And we go into this, basically a national championship cup. And at that point, the story for us was a little odd because we had multiple seniors who had already graduated at that point and were actually out of the country on kind of travel and celebrations. So we kind of had the remnants of a team a little bit. We had to actually pull up a couple members from our junior varsity team during our national championship kind of playoff. We proceeded to keep winning, and we made it all the way to the finals, which was actually against a Canadian team. And we, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we lost in overtime. Is that accurate? Yeah, it was very, very close. But at that point, we had beaten every other undefeated team in the United States of America. And this was with members, a mixed crew of our varsity and JV team. And both of these guys were there and playing on it, and couldn't be more proud of them. So. What's up? Sorry.
If you want to come up, we'll
We'll
get a picture. And
Come on up.
Also, your jerseys are super awesome.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Appreciate it.
Did you guys design them or?
We did, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions or comments, or Mrs. Beaudoin?
Are they sophomores now?
Yes, correct.
So you guys did this as freshmen?
Oh, sorry,
you were a sophomore
sophomore last year, you were a freshman last year, I apologize.
Wow,
Oh.
that's awesome.
Very impressive.
So we got a couple more good years then.
Oh, yes, we do have a couple more good years.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
so like the school down the street in blue that is saying they have a national championship in esports, we can say that also.
There we go.
Oh, no, not national championship, right?
Yeah,
Just
we,
one for that.
state championships, you've got a number of trophies in your room, so.
That's correct.
There we go.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mr. White.
Yeah, thank you.
Great job.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, this brings us to our student board representative.
Yeah, we're excited to have Cameron with us tonight, and this will be his first time with the board, and really enjoyed working with Cameron over the past couple years, but I know he's got some things to share, and welcome, and thank you for being here tonight.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Mike. I really appreciate it. As you all know, I'm Cameron, the student board representative. I am a senior at Novi High School, and some things I'm involved in are the BSA and the Novi swim and dive team. I'm a swimmer, not a diver. So some things I want to talk about tonight at the meeting were homecoming. Homecoming's a very big event coming up this year at Novi High School, as it is every year. And homecoming royalty nominations, all that kind of like jazz kind of comes out tomorrow. And so the school's been very pumped. Student council's been doing a spectacular job with all the decorations, with all the prep planning, and like just everything that's been needed to be done with homecoming has been going really well. So I wanted to let everybody know that. And I also wanted to talk about the cell phone policy. I know that was like a new thing that's been instated this year, and that being like a senior, I know not many of us were like the most happy about it. However, it's been going really well. Students have been able to focus a lot more. Students have been a lot more active in learning and just have been more participating in class, and that's been huge, especially to see, because I've been going to Novi my whole life, and I've never seen this level of like enthusiasm since like kindergarten. So it's really nice to see everybody truly being like happy to be here. So thank you.
Thank you, Cameron, and welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.
This brings us to comments from the audience. Do we have any green cards yet? Do we have any audience members that would like to address the board? Seeing none, we will move on to, reports to the board. I missed that one.
That's okay.
Mr. Micah.
Yeah. Well, tonight we're going to hear from Mr. Jeremini and Mr. Combe about our data from last year. They're here to provide the report from last year's data. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Jeremini.
Thank you, Mr. Micah. Happy to present our data this evening. For this year, we've combined our state assessment data report as well as our iReady assessment report. Mr. Combs is going to take us through that, and then we'll have a few action items that we're going to share with you, and then we'll go from there. I'll hand it over to Mr. Combs. Oh, there he is.
Hey everybody, nice to see you all. I've been told to keep this snappy, so I'm going to move fairly quickly. I want to start by making sure you guys all know that the packet you got, that is the slides here that we're doing, you have an appendix there, so things that we go through fairly quickly here, you have the ability to take a deeper dive into on your own. So we're going to take a look here at iReady and state assessment data quickly. Just a quick reminder that data and education really helps direct us to kind of identifying where we need to focus, but can be heavily affected by small sample sizes, variables we don't control, things like that. And we want to have multiple data sources. So we want to keep that in mind as we look at any one given data point. So we'll start here with iReady. This will be the spring of 24, kind of the final attempt at iReady. We'll start with math here. So again, something you can dig into as you go. This is generally what we want to see. We see the first bar is fall and the second is spring. So we see improvement across all of our grade bands. We see that also here. You'll notice 7th and 8th grade, the levels, the placements there at mid or on grade level, which is that darker green, aren't quite what you'd want to see. We have spent a few years struggling with trying to figure out how to engage 7th and 8th graders in the iReady tests. Not their favorite thing to do. So tried a new approach last year and another new approach this year in terms of how we deliver the test. Taking a look here, again, we're still staying with math. These are scores of various different subgroups. Again, you're looking at that those green bars. The dark green are on grade level, and the light green is kind of early grade level. The blue bar over there is typical growth. So we're basically saying here, if you look at the overall, that's suggesting that the typical student in Novi makes 125% of the expected yearly growth. And so if we look down our subcategories, most of them are also really well done. We definitely have an opportunity here to work for our Black or African American students are at 96%. And we'd like to see that move up into line with where a lot of our other subgroups are. A couple of other subgroups that are not necessarily racial subgroups. We've got Hispanic or Latino, our English learners, economically disadvantaged, and special ed, all of whom here also are at 100% or higher of typical growth. We included this slide to kind of be the one opportunity to compare us against the nation. So the district is there on the right, and if you look at the left, you'll see the last time iReady took a national norm, which was before the pandemic, is on the far left. but then the national year-to-date, so our spring compared to the national spring at that time that year is us on the right, and sort of the national norms right there in the center. So comparatively, pretty impressive students. So this is a little hard to see, but we tried to kind of do what we would call a cohort look. So this is for our African American students. And we took a look at, for example, if you look at the first box, those would be kindergartners in 2021, would be that top left green, 91%. And then you can kind of see how those kids as first graders then scored, and then those kids as second graders scored. So following that same group of kids, we put cohort in quotes there because it's not a true cohort. There are kids that come and go from that group, so it's not exactly the same number of kids. But you'll see here, overall, the numbers are pretty good, but we do see some areas that we have some concern, especially if you look toward the bottom there. You'll see that as kids hit 7th grade, their scores dropped pretty dramatically there. But overall, this kind of helps us kind of have a radar that we pay attention to and see where maybe areas are we need to work on. In your appendix, you'll see the same thing for economically disadvantaged students. Taking a look at the same categories here in iReady Reading. Again, we're looking at significant improvements from fall to spring, as we would expect, K through 5. Same with 6 through 8, and again, similar situation there at the middle school. So here are our subgroups in reading, K through 8. A little bit better with reading. If you look at our progress to typical growth, we're above 100% for every subgroup, which is something to be proud of. And then here, again, over 100% typical growth for each of these subgroups. National norm, very similar here, not quite as dramatic as with math, but significantly, our students significantly outperform the national norm in that national year to date. And then with our reading cohort, we're seeing some drops over the course of a few years here that we definitely want to pay attention to and make sure we can identify why that might be and what we could do to improve it. But it's not always consistent from grade level to grade level or cohort to cohort. So now we're going to take a look at state proficiency data. So this would be the M-STEP and the PSAT and SAT. So the way this works, I kind of clipped these from a much larger, busier form that you'll see in the next slide. But so this is 8th grade and 11th grade math proficiency on the PSAT for 8th grade and the SAT for 11th grade. The N, the O, and the M stand for Novi, Oakland, and Michigan. So overall, if you look at all of our students, 70% were proficient on math in the 8th grade PSAT there in Novi, compared to 42% in Oakland County and 33% in Michigan. So if you kind of keep that in mind as we look at these next few slides, it's that same pattern, right, with Novi, Oakland, and Michigan there. So taking a look here, we have a heat map sort of that shows a variety of different subgroups. So looking down from the top, you've got all students, economically disadvantaged, English learners, and so on. If you had a chance to look over it, you'll see that almost in every category, our students significantly outperform Michigan and Oakland County. Not in every scenario. If you'll notice, I circled there our African American students in 8th grade are actually scoring below the Oakland County number, so that's something we want to take a look at and try to improve. A couple of areas there, you'll see a blank or an asterisk. There's a little key over there for you to look at, but in general, if we have too small a number to, if you had like 10 kids or 7 kids, they won't report that because a person could conceivably identify who those kids are, and so we don't do that. So here would be M-STEP, if 8th and 11th was PSAT and SAT. So M-STEP, on the other hand, is from 3rd through 7th grade. And here again, you've got 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th grades. And you'll see our proficiency levels are in the 60s and 70s compared to Oakland schools and Michigan in the sort of 50s, 40s, and 30s. So again, very significant, strong performance comparatively. And then you see another pretty busy heat map here, but in this scenario, every single score, Novi matches or outperforms Oakland or Michigan in terms of our student subgroup performance. So then here's ELA, 8 and 11, so PSAT and SAT. So we have 86% proficient in 8th grade and 82% proficient in 11th grade, which again outperform Oakland and Michigan. Here are our subgroup performances, which again, pretty significant outperformance in our proficiency compared to Oakland and Michigan. We don't see any areas in which we are below the county or state average. Then here will be that M step, 3 through 7. So our proficiencies here are in the 60s and 70s. We do see a lower proficiency there for Novi in 3rd grade. This is something that we saw throughout the county and state, but ours is a significant gap there that we want to address and see if we can figure out why. So again, a heat map here showing all of our students in subgroups. Again, we are at or above county and state averages for proficiency here as well. So very briefly, taking a look at science and social studies, these aren't reported in PSAT, but are reported in M-STEP for 5th grade, 8th grade, and 11th grade. So our proficiency here, 5th, 8th, and 11th, compared to county and state. And again, similar story here, where our general performance proficiency is at or above county and state averages. Purple one is social studies. So here we have 5th grade is significantly lower, but as you can see, that seemed to be the case across the county and state as well. Some shifts in the test, we think. But overall, proficiencies there and in subgroups, again, at or above county and state levels. And so then we get to trends. So that was proficiency and subgroup proficiency. Now we're kind of going to take a look at how our students have scored year over year. And so what I did was I kind of pulled, rather than putting 700 lines in front of you, I pulled a couple things to kind of highlight. They don't look super clear here floating by themselves. That's why you have an appendix at the back where this is all put into the graphs that you might need. But in general, what you're looking at for any of these lines is on the far right bubble, that is last year. And then each bubble back to the left is the year before. But you'll see a big gap, and that is the COVID pandemic, with the previous score being, I believe it was 18-19. So we kind of highlighted this with a couple of kind of positive trends. So if you look at 8th grade and 11th grade ELA, so that would be PSAT and SAT, those are both staying strong or improving. In blue there is 4th and 6th grade math, and you'll see those things on the M step, having some pretty significant improvements there from year to year. And then 4th, 6th, and 7th grade ELA proficiency has maintained or improved for the most part, and so those are all pretty positive trends. And then we see some positive trends here as well in science and social studies. So green there is science, 8th and 11th grade is maintaining or improving scores there. And then you'll see our social studies takes a pretty dramatic jump there in 11th grade and is maintaining in 8th. So a couple of areas that we wanted to kind of keep on the radar. So these are things that when we look at the data suggest to us that there's something that we need to try to address. So 3rd and 5th grade showed a pretty significant decline in ELA and M-STEP. And while we did see this across the county, that is something that we're curious about. Why was that pronounced for us? Then below that, you can see in blue, pretty sharp decline in PSAT and SAT math. We think one possibility here is this is the first year that the PSAT and SAT was offered digitally, and that seemed to have a bigger impact with math because the way they interact with clicking and dragging and highlighting is very different in math and a little bit something they're more used to with the ELA stuff. We're not sure, but that's why it's on the radar. We have a drop there in 5th grade science, which was a little uncharacteristic considering 8th and 11th grade were solid, and the same there with 5th grade social studies. So another something that we're taking a look at. So finally, just kind of wanted to share with you what we're doing when we look at this data. So the first thing we're going to do is make sure that this gets to building level so that we can take a look at what does that mean in a given building. So Mr. Giramini will be taking a look at this data with building principals and really kind of trying to address what does that mean at my building? What plans do we have? What actions have they been doing or might they do based on that data? We are going to be doing these data meetings as well after iReady administration. So 3 times a year, we give the iReady. And this year, we're going to make sure that after each one of those, building principals are able to take a look at that data and run staff level meetings about what the data is, what that might suggest, and kind of respond to that in their building. That's a part of a revamped K4 MTSS process, so I've been hearing probably about that. That will involve some formal meetings and some different approaches to wrapping around how we address or help individual students that might be struggling or behind grade level. We're installing a curriculum cycle approach, so a predictable way for us to look at different subject areas in different years so that we can really monitor curriculum and identify maybe weak spots or areas we need to bolster based on what the data is telling us. Probably one of the biggest things we think is going to help with literacy is we have a new K4 literacy curriculum, which you're pretty aware of, RGR and Wit and Wisdom. We believe that that curriculum being taught to fidelity and the accompanying assessments are really going to help us boost that literacy K4. iReady is going to be a little bit different at the middle school. They had taken an approach where they wanted to lessen disruptions in class, and that didn't seem to work quite out as well as we'd hoped. So now I think they're going to really bolster making sure that those tests have a little bit more time, even if it takes some time away from class. And then finally, we do have some experience now with the digital PSAT and SAT administration, and we think that may allow us a little bit of capacity there with our PSAT and SAT. So that was it. I know it was a lot really fast. In your slides, you've got an appendix that is divided by proficiency data and trend data. And so you are welcome to take a look at that as you need, if you have any questions.
I know one other component is that we're looking to schedule another curriculum committee of the whole to be able to allow, board members to ask questions and we can dive into this data further. So I know that you're seeing this, and this is our first portrayal of the data to the public and to the board for the first time, so it's nice to kind of, let it sink in and review it on your own and then be able to submit questions so that we can have a good dialogue at the next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That being said, do we have any questions you want to ask right now?
I had one, and we've discussed this a little bit, but just for the rest of the committee and for fellow board members. One of the things that Mr. Combs highlighted is the 3rd grade from last year, so this year's 4th graders in that reading. And we discussed too with our new literacy program, those students have a more limited time period with that program. So we had talked about possibly trying to figure out if there's ways to infuse that more fully into their curriculum, or then bridging that gap as those students get up to Meadows. And so I just wanted to mention that that is one thing we're looking at already and gonna explore more in curriculum. Is that accurate to you?
Absolutely accurate. I
Okay.
appreciate you bringing it up. And then one of the other things that we're really focusing on this year is we did a lot of work K4 last year. We're doing 512 this year. And so, we've demonstrated that we can move at a quick pace and get really good quality work done. And we're gonna do the same thing with 512 so that those students who are moving into Meadows from 4th grade really have the supports that they need.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I think that's gonna make a big difference, but that was something I'd kind of, when I saw this initially, had concern over because that group is getting less of that backfill with that literacy program. And then this is just mostly a joke, but if we're having a hard time motivating our middle schoolers to try hard on the iReady test, maybe we tell them if they hit their growth goals, they can have some time with their cell phones.
Might be too soon. That might have been a joke too
Well,
soon.
maybe, it might work, I don't know. So anyways, thank you guys, appreciate it.
Any other questions? Like Mr. Mike has said, we will have the opportunity to ask more in-depth questions at a committee of the whole for the curriculum committee, so. Okay, I see they did leave. I was gonna suggest Mr. White take his crew out of here, but this brings us to our, seeing I already did comments in the audience, it brings us to our consent agenda. In our consent agenda, we have regular meeting minutes of August 15th, regular meeting minutes of August 21st, our governance and policy minutes. We have our July 2024 board book. We have our July 2024 check registry and our July 2024 purchase cards. On top of that, we have field trips for HOSA state competition and the 5th grade camp overnight. Can I get a motion? Mr. Mena.
Yeah, I move that the board approve consent items as presented.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Mena, supported by Mrs. Roney. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 5-0. This brings us to our action items. Personnel report A. Mr. Micah.
Exciting time, every meeting, you get to see some of our new Wildcats, so I'll turn it over to Dr. Carino.
Thank you. This evening, we bring forward several recommendations for hire. Brittany Cornelia is being recommended as a 4th grade teacher at Orchard Hills. Brittany came to us with previous elementary teaching experience in Livonia. Rebecca Schaefer is being recommended for the speech and language pathologist position at the middle school. Rebecca previously served as a speech and language pathologist in Livonia as well. We also recommend Nicole Tefilski as a special education self-contained teacher at Novi Meadows. Nicole completed her student teaching at Novi Middle School and has been serving as a long-term guest teacher since last year. Sherry Uchiyama is being recommended as an ELD teacher at the middle school. Sherry graduated from University of Michigan and completed her student teaching in the Ann Arbor Public Schools. Casey Shaheen is being recommended as a special education self-contained paraprofessional at Village Oaks. She previously worked as a guest paraprofessional and as a member of our auditorium crew. Stephen Thompson is being recommended for the maintenance technician position. Stephen comes to us with previous experience as a director of maintenance for building complexes and also his previous school experience in grounds and facility maintenance, serving as an assistant engineer supervisor in Pontiac. We also recommend Jennifer Creighton for an evening ESL teacher in our adult education program. Jennifer has previously worked as a training manager and an instructional coach and teacher in both Taylor and Lincoln Park. Patricia Hockett is being recommended as a social studies teacher in our career prep program. Patricia previously served in this role for many years between 1999 and 2022, so we are excited to welcome her back. We also recommend Laura Hudden for an evening ESL teacher in the adult ed program. Laura is a recently retired elementary teacher in the Westwood Community School District. Finally, we recommend Carolyn Spencer for an evening ESL teacher position in the adult education program. Carolyn has previously served as a guest teacher and instructor at the Walled Lake Outdoor Education Center. She also has previously worked in the Traverse Bay Area Intermediate School District as an adult and alternative education teacher. We also have a few resignations and retirement notifications. Devin Kling, our Assistant Superintendent of Business and Operations, will be resigning effective September 30th. Starlet Bragg, Special Education Self-Contained Paraprofessional, has resigned from Novi Meadows. Carol Chaput, Middle School General Education Paraprofessional in Media Services, will be retiring effective January 17th, 2025. And Bailey Bishop, Middle School PE teacher, has requested her first year of child care leave. I'd like to take a moment to thank Carol for her years of service to the district and wish her well in her retirement, even though we still have her for a few more months, as well as thank this guy to my right. It has been a privilege to work together, and he will certainly be missed. He was not only a colleague, but definitely became a friend. And that concludes tonight's Personnel Report A.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion?
That the
Mrs.
Novi,
Roney.
that the Novi Community School District Board of Education adopt the personnel report recommended as presented.
Support.
Moved by Mrs. Roney, reluctantly supported by Mr. Smith. Any comments, questions? Go ahead.
We don't want you to leave. We'll miss you terribly. Thank you for everything you've done. And to everyone that we're approving to join our team, please know our reluctance is not a reflection of you, but just simply we don't want to approve Mr. Kling's resignation. That is all. Welcome, everyone.
We usually don't want to approve any resignations or
Right,
retirements.
right,
We
but-
just soon keep them around, but we appreciate all they've done for us over the years and even in Mr. Kling's short time. Really appreciate it, so. With that, I will call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 5-0. You want to do introductions now? And when they get up there, please introduce your supporting cast. And then we'll get on to personnel report B afterwards. So.
Perfect. Yes, you are welcome to bring your family up. Tonight we have Brittany Cornelia here. Hi.
Up here? Sorry, missed that part. Hi, my name is Brittany Cornelier, and I'm excited to join the Novi family. I come from Livonia Public Schools with 11 years teaching background, and I'm currently transferring from a 4th grade position to a 4th grade position. So that's going to be a nice, easy transition for me, and I'm excited to start on the 30th, I think.
Awesome. Thank you. Welcome.
Rebecca, please.
Hello, my name is Becca Shaver. I'm also coming from Livonia Public Schools. I'm a speech language pathologist, and this will be my 4th year as a speech pathologist.
Welcome.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Nicole.
Hi there, my name's Nicole Tafilski. I student taught at Novi Middle School, and I've been around Novi for about 3 or 4 years. And I'm very excited to be teaching at Meadows. Thank you.
Welcome.
Sherry.
Hello, I'm Sherry Uchiyama, and I'm really excited to be beginning in a position here in Novi, working with students who are developing their English language skills. I'm a recent graduate of the University of Michigan SECMAC program with endorsements in history and ESL.
Welcome.
Jennifer.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Creighton. My day job, I work as an instructional designer, so I've been in the training field for the last 8 years, working mostly with adults, creating training teachers. So I'm excited to work. I work as the ESL evening teacher, and I am very thrilled. It's been a fun time so far, and getting to know everybody, building relationships, so I'm really enjoying it. So, yeah, thank you.
Welcome.
At our last personnel report at our board meeting in August, most of the staff was at curriculum night or open house, and so a lot were not able to join us, so there were a few people who wanted to introduce themselves. So Francine Comstock.
Hello, my name's Francine Comstock. I'm going to be I am actually the new ASD self-contained. So I'm excited to work at Deerfield and be a teacher for Novi for All. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Jacob Figueroa.
Hi, I'm Jacob Idodo. I'm a self-contained ASD teacher at Village Oak, and I came from Indonesia, and I spent 7 years teaching high school general education there. And I came to Michigan in 2019 to get my master in curriculum and instruction, and my certification in special education. Thank you.
Welcome.
Lakita Carnell.
My name is Likita Karnala. I have experience in India, 6 years teaching experience. Here in 3 years experience. Thank you for giving this opportunity for me. I am a paraprofessional in Arshad Hills Elementary School.
Welcome.
Ambika Natarajan.
Good evening, everybody. This is Ambika Nadarajan from Deerfield Elementary School. It's my first year working with Novi schools, and I'm really happy to be part of the special education program. Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, Sujata Yarabarla.
Hi, I am Sujata Arabarla. Previous, I worked in Longacre Elementary School in Farmington. This year, I moved Village Works Elementary School. I am excited work to here. Yeah, so proud.
And that concludes everyone for Personnel Report A.
Thank you very much. And feel free to get up and vacate as we go through our regular business here too. So. This brings us to Personnel Report B. Mr. Micah.
This is an exciting, as well as a sad night, as we're saying goodbye to our friend, Mr. Kling. We do have the opportunity to introduce somebody who I think is going to do a great job, and kudos to Dr. Carino for her persistent work with us. I'll let her introduce.
Thank you. For tonight's Personnel Report B, we recommend Becca Cicluna for the Assistant Superintendent of Business and Operations position. Becca has experience in financial planning, forecasting, and organizational change management. She has previously served as the Chief Financial Officer at Universal Intermodal Services and has worked on strategic initiatives. Becca holds an MBA from the University of Michigan's Ross School of Business and an active CPA license and is a Novi resident.
Thank you. Can we get a motion? Mrs. Baudouin.
I move that the Novi Community School District Board of Education approve this hire as noted above.
Support.
Moved by Mrs. Baudouin, supported by Mrs. Roney. Any questions or comments?
Yep.
Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
And don't forget to introduce your supporting staff.
Yeah, I will. They're supposed to come with me, but I think they're shy. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. I am supported by my daughter Emily, my son Jace, who attend Novi Middle School and Novi Meadows 6th grade, my boyfriend Steve, and my super good friend Aaron, who is also a teacher here in this community. I've actually lived and worked in this community for the past 18 years, so I have a deep love for Novi, and I am super excited to serve in this capacity. So thank you so much.
You forgot one that's peeking out right there.
Yes. Oh yeah, and my little friend Nick Nack.
Thank you, welcome. Okay, this brings us to our MASB call for delegates approval.
Yeah, this is the opportunity. I know that we have a couple people that have volunteered. Mrs. Roney is the one that comes to mind. I know that Mr. Mishner had volunteered to be an alternate.
I actually volunteered to be
a delegate.
A delegate.
Yeah. So really, it's a matter of if there are any others that would like to participate as a delegate, or if we could at minimum get a alternate or two.
So typically what we do is we end up with 3 delegates and 4 alternates, and everybody's on the list.
Okay.
So just because you're on the list doesn't mean you have to go, but if you are thinking of going, then we'd prefer you to be a delegate, so. So I know Jason mentioned to me the other day that he would like to be a delegate. Mrs. Roney has mentioned she'd like to be a delegate, and I can't remember, Mrs. Ruskin,
I
Dr.
think
Ruskin?
Dr. Ruskin said she could serve in an alternate capacity.
Okay. Does anybody else want to volunteer to be a delegate or alternate? Okay. Let's put down, let's have Mary Ann, and then Jason Michener and myself as the delegates, and then list everybody else as the alternates.
I like that idea.
And that way we're covered, and if anybody goes at the last minute, they can participate, so,
Is this, this is Friday during the day, correct?
yes.
Okay.
I
thought
do
it
believe
was
so.
Thursday evening.
It may be.
The meeting, I believe, is Thursday evening.
Okay. I mean, you can put me on as optional, as an alternate, but I know I have to be at work that
Yeah.
Friday, so that's why I was like, I don't think I can do it. But
Yeah.
if there's
Yeah, but if
evening
you-
or weekend stuff, I
You
can.
don't get penalized if your name's on the list and you don't go.
They're not gonna cry or anything.
Well, they might, but, you know.
They may come after you.
You'll
but-
have to console them.
Yes.
So sorry Betsy wasn't able to make it.
Betsy
So-
wasn't there.
Yeah,
So-
sorry. Great, thank you, appreciate you.
Mr. Michener, Mrs. Roney, Mr. Cook as delegates, and Mr. Smith, Mr. Mena, and Mrs. Baudouin, and Dr. Ruskin as alternates. So your motion?
Yep, sure. I move that the board approve delegates to the MASB 2024 Delegate Assembly as discussed.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Mena, supported by Ms. Baudouin. Any other questions, comments? Call the question, then. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 5-0. This brings us to Novi High School Hockey Cooperative Agreement approval. Mr. Micah.
Yes, this was an opportunity that was presented to us. We discussed at our August 15th board meeting. It's coming to you for approval tonight, which will allow our hockey program to serve as a co-op agreement with Clarenceville High School.
So we get a motion. Mrs. Roney.
That the Novi Community School District Board of Ed approve the MHSAA Cooperative Agreement as presented.
Support.
Moved by Mrs. Roney, supported by Mrs. Baudouin. Any questions, additional questions or comments? This was brought to us last meeting. Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 5-0. This brings us to Troon Law Policy Updates and Revisions Approval. Mr. Micah.
The Governance and Policy Committee of the Whole met on September 9th to review and discuss the law updates from 2024. And talking with Troon's policy specialists, they said that they had a lot more changes this year than they like to have. However, there were a number of bills and legislation that changed. There are a couple policies that we need to have future meetings about and discuss, but the policies are listed there for your review. We had a pretty extensive discussion. The primary changes in our policies result from MCL changes, so there might have been a law that, the MCL number changed, or there were minor clerical edits. There are some substantial changes to the Title IX policy with the new regulations that changed just recently. We also have some new laws that changed some of the employment related items, and those policies were discussed at the September 9th meeting. These policy revisions come to you for approval this evening.
Mr. Cook, I wanted to find out about making a small super minor change to one of these policies, and I'm not super clear when would be the appropriate time for me to request that. Should be prior to this motion, or?
Yes, we probably should pull that policy and discuss it.
Okay, it's like literally one word, so I don't think it's gonna be a big discussion, but I just wanted to, so do you want me to make a motion and then amend the, propose that amendment, or how would that work best for you? I think you're gonna like it, if that helps.
Yeah, but we also have two other board members that have been going through these as they
Yes.
were, so that's my concern. And
Okay.
so it'd probably be best to pull it and, because we
Push
do,
it to that, or-
push it to,
Or say if it's not substantive change, we can just pass it now and just bring it back for a minor edit at a future meeting?
Okay, would you like me to just tell you what it was?
Sure.
Cause you
Sure.
may feel differently.
yeah.
So we talked at our policy meeting about, it's for 5409, talking about a parent of a student with a disability under the IDEA may request a personal curriculum before the student has completed grade 9. And I just wanted to add, amend this to say they may request a personal curriculum, comma, including before the student has completed grade 9. So I felt it just clarified what we were verbally discussing. And I didn't realize it until I was reviewing it today at like 3 o'clock, that I was like, oh, if we added one word, that would make it quite clear. Because we discussed that sounded like you had to do it before 9th grade versus that you were able to.
During the discussion, that was my original thought when we read it, but if it says they can do it before, then,
Okay. If you
and
think
they can
it's-
do it after also.
If you find it to be clear enough as is, it's not a huge issue to me. I just felt that might make it a more simple policy for people reading it.
I guess I'll look to the rest of the board if there's any.
I'm fine if you change the word to Willie's.
Yeah, so if we passed it now.
pass it and then change it.
And then the policy committee, Tom, I think you're on it, right?
Yeah.
And so am I.
That's fine, yeah.
We can bring it up then and just fix that. You
Okay.
can send it to
Okay.
us.
Sure, and like I said, it's not a huge deal, I just felt like we were trying to understand that amongst ourselves, and that might clarify.
So if you make a motion to pull that one policy out of there, out of the list, and then
Great.
you pass it, we'll
Have we made a motion yet?
No.
Okay.
I interrupted
So-
everything.
Okay, so then the motion should be for approval of all the motions minus 5309.
Yep, 5409.
5409.
Do you want me to do that?
Go ahead.
Okay. I move that the Novi Community School District Board of Education approve the policy updates as presented with the exclusion of 5409.
Support.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Beaudoin, supported by Mr. Mena. Are there any other concerns, questions on the policies that we?
Who are you gonna call?
Don't forget the bread, don't forget the milk.
That's basically it, but thought I turned everything off. So moved by Mrs. Beaudoin, supported by Mr. Mena. No other discussion. We will call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 5-0. This brings us to Novi High School Furniture Phase 3 approval.
This package is presented by TMP, and I believe Sarah's even here tonight if there are questions, but this is a furniture package for Novi High School. The large portion of this is for both teachers' lounges and the Novi High School Media Center. One of the conversations we had was making sure that as the high school receives future design updates, that these are portable and modular and able to be relocated if necessary. There's also some additional small office spaces that are getting some furniture. This has been discussed several board meetings ago, but this comes back for your approval tonight. And the contracts are listed above, and the total procurement amount of $725,886.29 for your recommended approval this evening.
Okay, can I get a motion? Ms. Beaudoin.
I move that the Novi Community School District Board of Education approves the contract listed above in the amount listed for a total procurement of $725,886.29 at the October 17th regular board meeting. That's not today. So do you want me to amend this motion?
That would
To
be
say
helpful
at
to
today's
say
meeting?
At today's meeting.
Great. I would like us to approve that for today's meeting, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
I support.
Moved by Mrs. Beaudoin, supported by Mr. Smith. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Are we gonna go through this presentation after or no?
We did
Or is this
plan
just
to,
for us?
but
Oh, I didn't know.
we did go
Great.
through the presentation at a previous meeting.
Okay,
so-
great. Then I have no further questions. I'm great, thank you.
And all this furniture with the upcoming plans or some of the plans that are happening at the high school is reusable, we're able to repurpose it and keep things going, so. Hi.
Hi, yes, everything is portable, movable. There's some larger pieces in the media center, even those are movable in the future.
Okay,
Thank you.
so,
Thought it all looked great. And I agree, everything, as I looked through it, did seem very flexible, that we will be able to make use of it no matter what our future plans make.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
With that, I will call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 5-0. And this brings us to our information discussion, our wellness center plan discussion. Mr. Micah.
So, over the course of the past 8 to 10 months, we've had a number of conversations and presentations about the Wellness Center. There was a lot of work that's been done with large committees, and Rosalie, our Director of Mental Health and Wellness, have been working, behind the scenes and in front of the scenes, holding town hall meetings. We've had a number of discussions about the Wellness Center, and previously we've said before we go out to design, we would have her come back to the board and share the results of their work. I know that Stu is here as our project manager and senior design architect from King Scott, and both of them together are going to share the layout as well as the plans for the wellness center. Again, the goal would be that this comes back at our next board meeting in October for your approval so that we can begin the design process. So with that, Rosalie.
All right, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to join you and provide an update on our Wellness Center, specifically focusing on the conceptual designs. As mentioned, I am joined by Stu, and so we will co-facilitate our presentation tonight. So as you are all aware, mental health and wellness continues to be an area of concern and an area of focus nationally and here in the Novi Community School District. I have shared with you lots of this data before, and so I'm not going to spend time going through each of these images, but I do want to remind everyone why we're here and talking about a wellness center. So as we have heard before, we know there are multiple public advisories that have been issued by the Surgeon General about the youth mental health crisis, about the epidemic of loneliness, and about the impact of social media. We also know that mental illness continues to rise, specifically in the areas of anxiety and depression. We know that 1 in 5 of our students are going to struggle with their mental health despite their race, their access to care, or their economic status, sometime in their schooling. We know that this generation has been identified as the most connected yet disconnected generation of all time. And we know that mental health and wellness has a direct and significant impact on the educational experience of our students and our staff and families. So not only does Novi continue to address mental health and wellness through a variety of people, partnerships, and programs here in the district, we have decided, with the support of the state of Michigan, the Board of Education, and our community, to try something that hasn't been done before. So through inspired innovation and purposeful planning, Novi is systematically addressing mental health and wellness 8 dimensions at a time. We are doing this through the creation of the Novi Wellness Center, which will serve as a central hub with physical spaces, specialized services, and unique programming. So I want to break apart what those words mean a little bit. So inspired innovation means we are uniquely purposing this facility, taking on a holistic approach by addressing all 8 of SAMHSA's dimensions of wellness. We're talking really about personalized care, specialized programming, and a client people-centered approach, as well as having an expert team of individuals here to really meet the individual needs of stakeholders. When we think about purposeful planning, I just want to remind everyone that last year we had a 60-member wellness committee that met 3 times. And together we really talked about our vision, our mission, and our purpose for the Wellness Center. We completed a SWOT analysis looking at different opportunities. We gathered stakeholder feedback in a survey. And we continue to live in this purposeful planning stage where we are thinking now about our service opportunities, our strategic partnerships, and our facility design. Systematic. Everything that we've been done has been very intentional and thoughtful, data-driven, and we are committed to continuous improvement. So I last presented to you at a high level, well, actually a very detailed level, our process last February for how we were going about this work with that large group committee. And at that time of presenting to you, we had the survey that was live to our different stakeholder groups, and Mr. Mike and I were preparing to present at the town hall. So we did hold that town hall meeting on March 13th last year, and we addressed during that town hall several frequently asked questions. Everything from who will have access to our facility, including students, staff, and families, to differentiating, really defining the difference between our Novi Wellness Center and a school-based health clinic. We talked about what medical services would be provided and that those would really mirror those of a minute clinic. We talked about the cost of services, and we know that some of our services won't be free. Some of those services will require an insurance be billed, and we know that we are also committed to offering lots of free programming at our wellness center and committing to supporting any students who have a financial need. We talked a lot about the different types of resources for mental health that we would have here, including short-term through partnerships with Novi Youth Assistance, Easter Seals, Mental Health Navigator, and then the importance of being able to have support here to connect individuals to long-term care. And then we also talked about the importance of parental consent and how that will be a requirement of our Wellness Center to access our mental and medical services for minors. And we talked through a little bit more of our logistics regarding operating hours. We know that our Wellness Center will need to have hours before and after school so that it's accessible to our stakeholders. So what programming did stakeholders determine should be prioritized? This is a result, a snapshot of that survey that was shared. And really all I want to highlight here is that there was interest in all of the programming that was represented on there. And that just confirms that that is why we're focusing on all 8 dimensions, because we all experience wellness differently. And so this to me is exciting because it opens up the opportunities for a lot of different programming to be at our Wellness Center. And then that survey, we also asked stakeholders to prioritize their top 5 physical spaces that they would like to see within our Wellness Center. And so you see that here by stakeholder group. And so after this town hall, we had several more meetings as a Wellness Center Leadership Committee, taking all of this feedback and preparing it for the next stage of the purposeful planning, which was meeting with Stu, our architect. And so he then took all of this input, and we've had several meetings to really start to plan the conceptual design. So I'm going to hand it over to Stu, who's going to share that with you next.
Thanks, Rosalie. Good evening, everybody. Our first step in this project timeline is really to present to you tonight the concepts that we've put together to get your support and answer any questions that you might have. Once we have your support from the stakeholders and from the board, we can start design right away. And this design we're anticipating going through the spring of next year. And as you are all very well aware, the tech link across the parking lot is going through a heavy interior remodel, and that will be the new home for the administration offices. And the timeline for this works great because once the remodeling is finished, we can start remodeling this facility once that space is open and operational. So I'm going to take you through the floor plan. So please note that this is our first pass. This is still a high-level conceptual plan, still a very fluid process. And some things may be changed and modified as we continue to collaborate with stakeholders and coordinate with our engineering consultants. First, you'll notice that we have a wellness wheel on the right and with its accompanying logos put on the floor plan here. We've tried to make sure to include the dimensions from the wellness wheel into some of our primary spaces. To the left, we have, let's start in the center. So when you enter the building, you'll enter into a welcome center lobby. This will have a welcome counter with a facilitator, and this person can give directions and answer any questions about the facility to its users. To the left, we have a medical clinic, which will have a waiting area with some exam rooms and some other flexible clinic spaces. This will also have a chiropractic office and massage therapist and a sun therapy room. We also have a reflection room, which is at the very end of this welcome center lobby to the top. To the right, we have a large community room, which will serve really for a multi-purpose space for classes, yoga, therapy, a host full of other activities. We also have a couple resource rooms, which will be able to provide supplies and goods to needy families and students. On the lower level, we have a large staff fitness area, which could be a very high-class space, housing a plethora of different types of athletic equipment. We are also looking at putting in some changing rooms with some shower and changing rooms combined, potentially a sauna, and access to a recovery room. To the left, we have several mental health providers' offices, especially with our Easter Seals and Novi Youth Assistance partners. We've got a large conference space, a small group instructional space, which again is another flexible room for a lot of activities. To the top, we've got a break room that breaks out into the outdoor garden, which I'll talk about briefly in a minute here. One other thing I'd like to point out is as we go through this process, our plan is to update this facility to current ADA code requirements. So that might potentially include a more accessible elevator and a widening the stairwell here. So the other thing too is we have no plans to modify the exterior footprint of the building. However, there might need to be some minor alterations, based on code requirements. So I'm going to go through some of the renderings. This is our Welcome Center lobby. And keep in mind, we have not gone through finishes, furniture. So what you see here is really, really conceptual. And this is really what the space could look like. We do know that, being a wellness facility, that we'd like to keep soft, natural colors, maybe some planters and some greenery. That's really the focus of this space, obviously. And studies have shown that some kind of connection to nature really helps wellness and recovery. It also enhances performance, focus, creativity, and a host of other things. This is our waiting space for the medical clinic. This is our reflection room, which would overlook the outdoor wellness area, or outdoor wellness garden. One of the great features of this space is the abundance of natural light, which is very conducive to wellness in general. We're also looking at maybe exploring some interior water features, which would also promote calmness and relaxation. And this would be a great space for meditation, pondering, reflection, relaxation. This is our sunlight therapy room, which is a space that replicates natural sunlight without the harmful UVA rays. This would be a great space to use all year round, but especially during the fall and winter months. And as you can see in the rendering, this is Ben's favorite space.
He's overdressed though.
A little overdressed, yeah. This is our staff fitness space, which is on the lower level. This would be, again, a first-class fitness center, lots of equipment options. And not only would this space be really focused on a wellness-themed finish, but there are plenty of opportunities for branding. So a lot of great things for this space too. And finally, this is our general concept of the outdoor wellness garden. We are working closely with a landscape architect that specializes in these kinds of spaces. In fact, we just met briefly about an hour prior to this meeting to walk the area. We've got some fantastic ideas that we're exploring. And one of the great things about this space is its location. With the high density trees to the north and the wetlands to the east, make it just a beautiful location. Really semi-private, so you get that for meditation, potential yoga, art classes. It could be a wide variety of opportunities for this space. So these are again, just really high level conceptual plans and renderings.
Okay. So what are our next steps? We will open the floor here in a minute for any questions or input. And so next steps would include your approval, hopefully, for us to move forward in this conceptual design phase. Other next steps include solidifying our key partners. When we're thinking about our services and programs, we're really starting to meet with some of those potential partners and think about what that really does look like and refining those terms of agreement. Continuing to explore further community partnerships, collaborating with stakeholders. So Stu mentioned, this is a really high level look at this, and now it's kind of gets to be the fun part, and we get to dig in and really look at the details of these spaces. So we'll have follow-up meetings with our wellness leadership team to go room by room and really talk about all of the things that need to be within that space. What needs are we trying to meet, again, within each space, and so what does that require when we think about furniture and design? We'll solidify a revenue model and begin some fundraising. And then just having continued conversations and planning around operations, security, technology, the hours of operation. And then finally, we'll continue to keep all of you updated as we continue in this process. So that concludes our formal presentation. And at this time, we welcome any questions or input.
Do we have any questions at this time?
I have quite a few questions, so if anyone else wants to go first, please proceed. Yes? Really? I'm the only one with questions? God. Make me talk
I
all the
kind of
time.
figured you would, Betsy.
Well, obviously I have questions. Okay. So first, I'm very excited about this. I think the general layout seems awesome and I'm very enthusiastic about it. Can you, and I think you covered this a little bit, tell me a little bit this reflection room. And in the rendering, which I understand are very loose renderings, it looks like when you come in, you can see through to that window, but then your layout sort of looks like there's like a wall and a door there, so I wasn't sure if that's like a room or like just a seating area.
Yeah, it's really a room.
Okay.
And again, we haven't looked at finishes. There could be some film on the glass, whatever, for privacy, but.
Okay. So that's gonna be, because do you have that as glass? I see what you did in the
Yes.
rendering. Okay. I did not zoom in far enough for that. So it'll be like a glass wall and then like a little private space.
Potentially, yes.
Okay. Hypothetically, yes, I know, we're reserving the right to change all of this. I'm just trying to get a sense of like the direction you're headed. And then I also on the floor plan did not see, but I think you said that the staff will have some showers available with the workout space. I saw it's like a changing room, but those will have showers.
Yeah, so up to the bottom right,
Awesome.
combined shower and changing space.
I thought they would probably like that. Okay, great, thank you. And then can you tell me the recovery room, what is that for? Because that looks like it's part of a public space and connected to the staff space?
Yeah, so it's intentionally kind of space between the corridor and the fitness area. And again, once we start diving into the details about how this is operated, the idea would be that it would allow for security of the equipment inside, transparency, so if staff wanted to use the space, they could, but if we want to open it up for public maybe, or community members to use it, then they would have access. So again, it's one of those spaces that would allow for both operations and security.
So Betsy, if
Like,
I may
what
jump
would
in.
you do in a recovery room?
That's where I was going.
I'm sorry, my question wasn't very clear. I just like, what does that mean?
Yeah, so a recovery room is something that it's a pretty cool idea and concept that we're working on with Ascension. It has specialized equipment, so chairs, boots, that you could wear a lot of times if you're recovering from a sports injury or you're just an athletic individual and it's a recovery for your muscles. It's also equipment that could be used by our bus drivers. So when we met with some different stakeholder groups, our bus drivers have talked a lot about some of their unique needs driving bus. And so it's very specialized equipment that would be within this space. And so that's why you kind of see it strategically positioned so that if you're a staff member, you can come into the staff wing and use the recovery room. But we also know that it might be a really good resource to make available to other individuals. So there's another entry point to the recovery room.
So that would be something we would determine kind of as you know what's in there more. And if I'm understanding it, this would be sort of like, kind of like massage chairs, but for more specialized things. Is that sort of the idea?
Yes, and I will have much more detail with you as we work out the.
Looking at this, and it looked like you started out with kind of dividing your space into this is like a private for the staff space, and then this is more community space. And I did not know what was the room that bridged that.
So also in all of this, we've been thinking about phases. And so we're trying to keep some of this design intentionally flexible so that if we are, phase one, just staff have access to the recovery room, and then, phase two, we actually have a need for it beyond just the staff that's here, and we have the ability to, have some supervision over the equipment. We could open and have an access point that's not through the staff fitness area for other individuals.
Okay, that I think makes a ton of sense. And then if we had like athletes that needed to use it, there could be a special reason we were doing that. Okay, great, that's wonderful. And then on the first floor, if I could shift you back there, you said the resource rooms were there just right off the main lobby?
Correct.
Would you be willing to explore if you might have somewhere else to put them? Because if I'm coming to this space where there's like a lot of other fun, happy things going on because we're running low on groceries this week and I need to come get some cereal, I'm not sure I want to do that like right in the lobby. So that maybe could go maybe in the lower level if there was room for it there,
Absolutely.
if that's possible. And let me check if I had anything else.
Can I make a quick comment
Yes,
on that, Betsy?
please.
We have, I think we'll have continued discussion. We have gone back and forth on the placement of that space and if it is better suited on the lower level or the upper level for a lot of different reasons. So we can continue that discussion. Our most recent thought was easily accessible on the first floor versus going downstairs and then having to come upstairs with a whole bunch of supplies or things like that. We also, I know, want to be strategic with our thought of how we're utilizing that space. And part of that is we're exploring a lot of partnerships where, like, we're forming a partnership with the Hospitality House, for example. And so that is we will have information at the Wellness Center about how to access that resource that upholds dignity a little bit more than coming into the Wellness Center and doing your shopping within the resource room. So we envision the resource rooms having some supplies, and we want to make those accessible, and we want to open up the door to opportunities for families through some of these strategic partners. So for example, the Hospitality House has, you can actually go there and you grocery shop and you can get your food. And we've had conversations with starting a backpack program here with them. We've had conversations with them about how they might actually load up a truck and be able to come and be here on site with all of the food accessible to families. So some of that is us looking at all of those different options. And we can definitely tweak this and have more conversation about it.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing I wondered for that same kind of thing, and I love that you're saying, like, trying to make sure we're allowing people to use these resources and maintain dignity at the same time. I'm wondering if it's possible, and I have not looked at our building plan well enough, I probably should have before I asked this question, but can we add an entrance downstairs? I see there's like an exit door, but is there like a lovely way that our landscape architects could do some like stairs coming down or something where then we could allow people to enter into a space where they would have access to those resources more privately? Because I'm thinking especially like our older students, they're probably not going to want to be like, oh yeah, you're going to go do this yoga class, I'm going to go grab some snacks for my family.
Right.
Like I just want to make sure we're making it useful and accessible to people in a way that isn't creating any
Absolutely.
kind of like shame in utilizing
Yep.
those resources.
Definitely.
And then I know that you said a lot of the things are going to be paid, like in terms of like medical care and that kind of stuff. This is more for Rosalie. You can just, you're like very engaged, right? Thank you. So with that, I just want to make sure that we're also coming up with ways to make sure these things are for everyone, especially like as we're reviewing like how our performance differences in different subgroups, especially like economically disadvantaged students. So I want to make sure that we have thought of them with this space because I do love this being a good resource for our staff for, you know, like if you want to get a massage or see a chiropractor or whatever. But I feel like if I have to pay for that kind of a service, there are people who offer those services if I want to pay for them all over our community. So I just want to make sure, since we have like a limited amount of square footage, that we are prioritizing making sure we can do the most good for the most people, which I'm sure that you are, but just wanted to kind of throw that thought out there for you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So just a couple of things to say. You know, we know that when we think financially and sustainability-wise, we know that we are going to have to utilize the process of billing insurance companies, especially for, you know, any of these services that would normally take that. I will say that we have already been having conversations with our community partners about what that would look like when you create a sliding scale. You know, Easter Seals already does that. Many of our organizations already do that, creating a sliding scale, even if it's $1 for an appointment, you know, to come in and receive those services. So absolutely, I want to confirm for you that
so
is.
you are working on that part as well to make sure that, because that's, and I saw on your list of what people wanted that the students specifically are requesting like more mental health support, and I want to make sure that we're making that available to everyone.
Yes.
And then when you talked about the, having parental consent for treatment, and I do think that's very important. I know our community wants to know what's going on in their children's lives, and I fully support that. I just would like to suggest that we look at putting kind of more of like a blanket authorization to access this space in our registration paperwork or something like that, so that like I could say, yes, my teenagers are able to go here, that is fine, here's my insurance information, go ahead and take care of that, so that we make it as user-friendly for kids as possible, especially when we're talking about like mental health services. And I do think we need to make sure we explore in that realm how we can make sure we're offering services to students who need them, because sometimes it isn't like safe or a good idea for parents to know that they're having a problem immediately. And so I know we have some of those things available within our school buildings, but if there's like an after-hours emergency thing, I just want to make sure that we're like taking care of everyone that we can, and I know you also care about that. And then my final thought, and I will be all done, guys, thank you for your patience. My final thought is I would just like to once again thank State Rep Kelly Green for getting us the grant that helped us to make this possible. I'm very excited to see what you are doing with it, and as it was a very loosely worded addition to the budget, I'm very excited that this is coming to be such an amazing space, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys,
Okay.
sorry.
Any other questions?
8 minutes, you know what, I could talk about it for about 3 hours, but I know they want to go home, so Tom's gonna get hungry.
No other questions? If you have any other questions, feel free to let Ben know, and we'll go from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
This brings us to our committee reports. Governance and Policy Administrative Committee of August 19th. With Danielle not being here, do the other two committees community members want to talk to it?
Well, we met a couple times
Yep.
in a short period of time. There was some repetition to those meetings, but we sat as a committee privately and went through every one of those codes that Laura walked us through. And then when we met with the committee as a whole, again, it was going back over that. I think we spent an hour and 15 minutes. But I think it's safe to say that our policy manual is now up to speed, and I think there was maybe one outstanding issue on AI, and other than that, we're pretty much good to go.
So we have the two policies to come back to us. One we
Correct.
pulled tonight, the AI one.
Correct.
Okay.
I think there's 3, aren't there 3?
Well, I know there's the AI.
There's
and then
the
there was-
AI, there's the student enrollment policy,
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
and then
And then-
The one we
That
pulled.
little one
one
I
from
just,
tonight.
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Okay,
Good
Thank you,
job,
Mr.
Tom.
Smith.
sure.
This brings us to our superintendent report. Mr. Michael.
Thank you so much. I would be remiss if I didn't just mention how grateful I've been to Devin for his hard work and getting us where we are. So he's been phenomenal to work with. I know that, you know, Mike and Laura will probably share in those sentiments, well, at least one of them will. But, you know, he's been great at getting us organized. It was a big effort to get us to where we are now, where we really understand where we stand financially and putting in a lot of internal controls and systems that were not in place. And so he did a great job for us, and I know that he's gonna do great things to the south, and we wish him all the best in everything he's doing. Kind of along those lines, I'm just really grateful to our administrative team, our teachers, and all of our staff. It's been a really great start to the school year. There's always a lot of stress related to getting everything off the ground, and our administrators, our teachers, all of our support staff, they really kind of met that challenge head on. I was talking with Mr. Jeremini earlier, and there's a growing number of people. I just got back from the MASA conference, which is the largest they've had, over 700 attendees from the state superintendent group, and assistant superintendents, and almost to a person, people are saying there's just something a little bit different about this year. And you think about post-pandemic getting to this point where it's really been fun to see a much more, feels like we're, whatever back to normal is now, we're kind of getting there, and that's really exciting. I also want to highlight a huge win legislatively was the passage of Senate Bill 911. This actually was a morphed version from the original House bill that Representative Kolazar worked on, but this bill permanently reduces the MIPSERS rate to 5.75% in statute. That takes place next year, which will result in us having much more predictability in some of those dollars. So it's just a really massive and monumental win. So we're appreciative to the representatives. I know Representative Breen was critical in helping this get passed as well. We are still working on a supplemental budget bill. That's one of the things that was still not replaced was the mental health and school safety monies that were stripped from the original budget. We're hopeful that in the not too distant future we'll see them come up with something to backfill for some of those dollars. I'd also like to thank the community for the open house that we had on September 16th. It was great to see people who don't have children in the school, as well as some that do, come and see the New Meadows building. It's really a community asset, and it was just really rewarding to see a lot of people coming through and recognizing the asset that our community now has. And so appreciative to the board members that were able to make it, as well as Mr. Bricky and Mrs. Fenchel for just their vision and hard work in managing getting it to this point, as well as all of our construction partners. So been a great start to school. Thank you to the board for all your support, and we're looking forward to continuing the momentum.
Thank you, Mr. Micah. This brings us to our administrative reports. Mr. Kling, I'm going to challenge you. Your eyes glazed over with all the data that was presented in the personnel reports. Put them to sleep.
Well, I think this might be one of my shorter ones, but I just want to say it's a real honor and privilege to serve this community. It's an amazing community, amazing school, amazing team. I'm really going to miss a lot of hard workers and just good people. So I just want to say thank you all for all of your support, and it's going to be hard to leave.
Well, you can stay.
I don't know how many times I've driven by on Taft Road and your vehicle's still out here in the parking lot. So, even late into the evening, so.
You don't have to look at a Dodge anymore. Sorry.
We really appreciate the effort you put in and the things you've done for this community, and, you're sorely gonna be missed.
Who's gonna fill a spot on this teacher basketball team?
Oh, that's a good question.
Oh, it could be me, that'll be fun.
Volunteering?
I was definitely joking, you could laugh at that. I have a lot of talents, but sports are not that.
Mr. Jeremini, seeing you brought in a surrogate to talk for you all day, you get to talk now.
Thank you, by the way.
Thank you for not talking. Noted. So just echoing what Mr. Micah said, it's been a really strong start to the school year. The professional development week in August went incredibly well. Visiting buildings, welcoming students into classrooms, building community has all just been phenomenal. And also, of course, the launch of our new literacy programs in K4. Very proud of that work. Very impressed by the work of the entire teaching and learning team. So appreciate them. And then Devin. So.
Devin.
You must stand right up there. I think I'm most upset that he is leaving me with the burden of all the humor on the cabinet team, because the other two members don't really carry their weight with it.
Mr. Micah.
So I may have to phone a friend or something and ask for some advice in that regard, but it has been a pleasure. I've very much appreciated building a professional working relationship and a personal relationship, and I'm really going to miss you. But I do live in that place to the south, and I'm glad that that district has somebody so great. So.
You do? You move? I didn't know.
Dr. Carino, best for last.
I am very funny, just so that you know.
When you have to tell people that normally is not.
Ms. Bodwine is on fire.
Sorry. It's been
Trying
a
to
great
not get
start
all
to the
emotional.
school year. I would like to give recognition to our Wildcat launch teachers who started something new and innovative this year and really gave teachers an opportunity to get to know kids before we made placements, and so we could do some intentional thinking. Of course, we were not planning on a 2-day power outage that prevented us from doing that in all of the schools, but we made the most of our time with them, and we're excited to see how those intentional decisions help for the whole entire school year. So we're excited for the adjustment week that we were permitted and to try things new here. I've already said things. I'm very sad that I'm going to be the only redhead on this table. He's been wonderful addition to our staff, and you are definitely going to be missed. And I'm really upset that you were leaving me with this guy. So, just kidding.
We all love you too.
But off to a great start. Therapy dog program is underway. The dogs are going, just doing great. I got an email today from one of our handlers that there was an upset student in a counseling office that the therapy dog was able to calm and made them feel better, and that is why we do what we do. So thank you for your support with that program.
Thank you. And how do you know you're the only redhead there?
Wow, you've really taken it
Both of us have
today.
become a
He
roast.
has the humor covered.
Are there any other jobs available?
This brings us to our board communication. So, does anybody have anything else they'd like to say? Somebody they'd like to roast?
I'll go.
Mrs.
The
Bodwine.
only one who talks today, apparently. Devin, thank you for everything you have done for our district. And as a new board member, I have been thrilled with the way that you have made our finances accessible and something that I can understand and try to have that information be as useful and helpful to all of us as possible. So thank you for your efforts there and also for bringing some good times to all of our meetings. And I would just like to remind you of the time that you said to us at the start of a finance committee meeting, well, we've got a big problem. And this was after multiple districts around us have announced that they were having major budget crises. And so my heart drops and I'm like full panic mode, and you're like, well, we're gonna have to file this paper next week, and so you guys are gonna have to approve it at the following meeting, not this one. And I was like, so that's like a little problem. So I'm gonna just impart on you that wisdom going forward, that paperwork problems, low key. Don't terrify the new board, okay?
I shouldn't open with that.
Don't open a finance meeting with, we've got a big problem, because people get scared. But I wish you and your family all the best, and we are so excited to see what your career holds for you. And then I also would just like to thank all of our staff and Mr. Manka and Mr. Giarmini, of course, we're gonna give you a little shout out here, and Dr. Carino for everything you guys have done getting this year going. I heard wonderful reviews from staff on how the kickoff PD week stuff went, as well as my experience as a parent has been fantastic this start of the school year. I think we've had just a couple minor bumps with transportation, but I feel like that kind of always is kind of a thing at the beginning of the year as we sort it all out. But so much work has been done in preparation, and it really is showing this year, and it's been a very smooth, wonderful start to the school year. And also, thank you, Dr. Carino, on all the work with the therapy dogs, because when you talk about students being stressed out and getting love from the dogs, I heard from my fourth grader that when she was starting to get stressed out in her science class, Bear came over and was, giving her a little love, and I'm just thrilled to have that as a part of some of their experiences here, because I do think it is a wonderful help to a lot of kids. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any?
Just one of the things I really loved about the, first day of school was the little notes we got about the parents, I think it was parents mainly or whatever, about they were all different schools and so-and-so's a rock star and this and that, and it's like, as a board member reading all of that stuff, it was pretty awesome. So, thank you for that, whoever, was that you or somebody?
So that was,
Thank you.
at the buildings, the different buildings.
Buildings, they did it, I mean, that was awesome.
That was
So,
Thank you. Bringing it up. Anybody else? Any other board communication? Seeing none, do we have an motion to adjourn?
I'll move that we adjourn.
support.
Moved by Mr. Smith, supported by Mrs. Roney. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you.